is a Hello, welcome to Walk in the Park. My name is Tony Ingram, and the date is February 20th, 2019. We had 216 episodes of this series on public access television in Ithaca, New York, Channel 13, and also shown on Channel 2, Cable Channel 2 in Cortland, New York. You can see all my episodes, or most all of them, on my website, walkinthepark.tv. That's actually a website. .tv, walkinthepark.tv. So go online, you can watch them anytime, and there are lots and lots and lots of different shows. You can search through the search function there, and this program is produced in, as I said, in Ithaca, New York, at the Pegasus Community Media Center, and Channel 13 is what we cablecast the public access programs on, but there are also educational access and let's see, government access, yes, government meetings and so forth that we have. So that's what PEG means, Public Educational Government Access System. That's what Pegasus means. So anyway, you can become a producer like myself, an unpaid volunteer producer, to share whatever you have a passion for and would like to share on television. And you can take a class or a couple of different classes. There's on the web page there's a drop down called training, and you can find out when our next training is. Every month we have trainings for using our studios, and also other trainings for what we call portable, where you can portable class where you can check out equipment and take it out in the field and make your own shows, get your own shows, maybe come back in the studio and edit it or use it in your show, like I do here. I do both. I take equipment out and I use it in the studio as well. So, and this one studio I'm in is called the Mini Studio. We have another one. There's a much larger studio that has, I think, 3 different cameras and a control room and so forth, and that's really a team effort. So, well, this episode I'm calling Winterfalls. We're going to take a little bit of a look at some of our waterfalls, actually mostly when they're in thaw condition this winter, and also take a look at some trees in our woods. And if we have time, we'll go on to this summer back up on Lake Ontario at one of our state parks up there, Fairhaven Beach. So the first place we're going to go is Buttermilk Falls State Park. We're going to hug right around Ithaca. Buttermilk Falls State Park. We had some warm spells, cold spells, and so this is going to be a time when there's a thaw, and you'll see that there's some ice that has built up on the where actually the waterfall flooded over its banks, but not right here. Anyway, this is showing the upper part of Buttermilk Falls, but let's get right into it and take a look at this short video. Coming right up, I'm queuing that right up here. Let's see. Yeah, coming right up. So that actually was following down through Buttermilk Glen or Buttermilk Gorge. There's a place, a trail, the rim trail is open, so you can walk along and look into the gorge in various places. So that's basically what that was. And there is one little spur trail that goes down to a footbridge over the stream, but there's a gate there that you can't actually get in the gorge because it is very icy in there this time of year, and people have met some very sorry fates when they've gone in there and slipped on the ice and gone into the roaring water, especially during thaw time like that. So stay out of the gorges. Those gates are not there to ruin your fun. They're there to keep you safe, and it's pretty dangerous in all of our gorges. So Taganic Gorge is usually open. Not sometimes they close it and gets too icy, but that's one of the ones that is more often than not is open. You can walk up the gorge because there's not steep steps and big ice formations on the trail, and lots of rock slides, although there are rock slides. That's one of the hazards in the wintertime, is that the freezing and thawing of the rocks on the cliffs come down at any time, and that all has to be cleaned off this spring. So I'll probably show again our program about scaling, they call it. I'll show that probably in April. That's been a popular one, but also very instructive one. So anyway, now we're going to stay in Buttermilk Falls State Park, but we're going to go in the upper park and take a look at a forest along what's called the Bear Trail. A trail, I've walked the Bear Trail for 40 years and I've never seen a bear on it, but somebody did once, so they call it the Bear Trail. Occasionally a bear wanders through the neighborhood. I've had a couple around my house, but I've never actually seen them. Neighbors have. And but they just wander through. They're not resident bears there. They just go through. I live right near the park, so right next to Buttermilk Falls State Park. So anyway, on the Bear Trail, we're going to look at hemlock trees, and there's a beautiful along the trail along Buttermilk Creek, upper Buttermilk Creek. There's a beautiful hemlock forest, but as you may know, our hemlock trees are under attack from an insect called the hemlock woolly adelgid. It's a little scale-like insect that has a waxy, woolly-looking covering on it, and it gets on the needles and it kills the needles. So I'm not showing a picture of that right now, but last week I was showing a rerun of a show we made 2 years ago, episode 155, called Saving Our Hemlock Forest. And if you go on my website, you'll find that. Just scroll down a little bit and you'll see it, the latest showing of it, but you can look at it online there. And that features a excellent film in my show called The Hemlock Woolly Adelgid by Chris Foydo. So really very instructive in there. That's done in cooperation with a number of different agencies, including Cornell University and others. So I recommend you take a look at that to learn more about hemlock woolly adelgid. So I went out and took some photographs of the hemlocks along this tree. They actually use it to promote that episode, and I decided to put them together into a little video. Going to be a lot of panning and zooming and so forth here. There might be too much, but anyway, you'll probably enjoy this. So let's bring that right up. The hemlock trees along the Bear Trail in upper Buttermilk. So hemlock trees are they're our principal evergreen that you find in our gorges, and we love our gorges. Ithaca is gorgeous, and we love the gorges. And most of the evergreens you see in there are hemlocks. There are some white pines too, and an occasional red cedar. But hemlocks like the shade. They grow well in the shade under other trees, and they can grow in steep slopes. And they take a very long time to grow. And they're sort of a cornerstone species for that ecosystem. They keep a lot of different birds nest in them. They keep the streams cool for the fish, and so they don't heat up too much and lose their oxygen, and a lot of other ways that they are play roles in the ecosystem. So a lot of that's gone over in that last show I was talking about, episode 155, Saving Our Hemlock Forests. So once again, if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend you go look that up on my website, Walk in the Park. See if I can get to that again, walkinthepark.tv, and go there and scroll down, and you'll see right there. You can watch it right there. It's on YouTube. So, okay, we're going to look at a couple of other waterfalls around here. And we're going to go over to Cascadilla Glen, which comes right onto Ithaca. These waterfalls, just 3 waterfalls we're looking at, are hugging Ithaca. Buttermilk Falls hugs Ithaca on the south end, and on the east side there are a couple of other gorges we know. Of course, this is Cascadilla Glen, and this is the first little waterfall that you encounter on the trail. Now, the Cascadilla Gorge, or Cascadilla Glen, is owned by Cornell University. It's run by Cornell Plantations, so they maintain the path, and they've done a lot of improvement to it in the last few years. Got some funds to be able to do that. But you see footprints on the path there. Well, you're not supposed to go in there this time of year for the same reasons you don't go in the other gorges. Because the ice danger, and the rockfall danger, falling ice, falling rock, slip off the ice into the stream, etc. Some places the trails are actually covered with huge ice formations, and there was a case in 1986 where a couple of people died. That's a whole story in Buttermilk, trying to get over that ice. So there was a college student that died doing that, and his rescuer also died, one of his rescuers. So anyway, we're going to go to take a look at the beginning, the mouth of Cascadilla Glen, which is right at an area that comes right into downtown Ithaca on the end of Court Street, in what's called Treman Triangle. So let's take a look at that little video. Yeah, it's coming right up here. Queuing that one up. Okay. Okay, so that gate there, beautiful gate that was made by a local ironworker. Has been around here many years. He does decorative ironwork and artistic ironwork. His name Duran Van Doren, and I used to have him when I worked for the parks. We had a Winterfest back in the 80s, and he used to come and do demonstrations of his blacksmithing work and so forth. And he's done a lot of ironwork for Cornell Botanic Gardens. So you'll see that in various places, and particularly that gate. So, but don't go beyond the gate, not this time of year, until they open it up. We're going to take look at one more waterfall in Ithaca that we all know very well, which is Ithaca Falls. And this is just the other day. It was below freezing, but there had been a lot of melt. But look at that guy down there fishing. There's a fly fisherman there. We'll take a look at him. Fly fishing in the creek now. Let's see, bring that one up. Come up in a second here. Let's go. Coming right on up, queuing that one up. Well, fly fishing is popular down just below the falls. They catch rainbow trout and salmon and some that sort of thing. Um, However, I posted this little video up on Facebook on social media, and got some comments. People saying, "Isn't trout season open April 1st?" And people said, "Yeah, but there are special rules. You can I don't know. I actually don't know whether the guy was doing that legally or not. Maybe he was doing catch and release. Maybe that's permitted, but there were a lot of opinions thrown around. I'm not a fisherman, so I don't know. But maybe he was. I don't know what. Anyway, you'll see a lot more of them this spring when the trout season begins. Okay, let's see where we are now on my time. I think I'm going to go right to. Once again, this is Walk in the Park. See all my shows at walkinthepark.tv, all my episodes. We're going to go to up on Lake Ontario. We're going to get away from the winter for a little bit, and we're going to take a look at a park that I featured this summer. I had a couple of shows where I featured Fairhaven Beach State Park. Now you can see the Finger Lakes down there in the lower right, and we are the right-hand one of the larger two Finger Lakes, and right down to the bottom end of that, right near that arrow, the north arrow, if you can see that on your screen. That's Ithaca. That's where Ithaca is, and then you can see Rochester. But here we're going to zoom in a little bit here. There's Rochester again. There we're in the center, the Finger Lakes in the center. And Fairhaven Beach State Park, you may not have been to, but it's a pretty neat park. Northwest of Syracuse. It's about, I don't know, 17 miles, 14 miles, something like that, southwest of Oswego, which would be up along the shore of Lake Ontario to the right there. So we're going to zoom in, go in here in this Google Earth picture, get in closer. There it is, that Oswego. Now you can see Oswego up there on the right, upper right. So it's a pretty interesting park. Get in closer. Now we're right in close, and the sign there saying Fairhaven Beach, the indication, that's the entryway going straight up, and you'll see a little tan area right along the shore, actually a light area there. That's the beach, and then the area mostly to the right of that. Actually, the area to the left of that is a little Sodus Bay, and there's a channel that goes out into the lake. There's a marina there too, but we won't talk so much about that. But we did that in the other show. We covered a lot about the park in the other show, but we're going to look at some of the history of this park. So the park extends to the east along the shoreline, going up along the shoreline there. And there's good camping and that sort of thing. So where am I here? Okay, so here's the entrance road where you come in Fairhaven Beach, and you drive up to the end of the road up to the beach. And here is the beach scene taken last summer. And notice that in the background there are some bluffs. So these are called drumlins, and drumlins are compacted earth that was compacted by the glaciers during the Ice Age. And the last time a glacier was here, more than 10,000 years ago, it compacted this clay and rock and sand and gravel and so forth into these long hills that are along the shore of the lake, and they extend south and east and west. And there's something like 10,000 of these things. It's one of the largest, what they call drumlin fields in the world. But anyway, they make these bluffs that are pretty interesting, and I've featured those in 2 programs this past fall about Fairhaven Beach and the area to the east of there. So anyway, on the bluff that is to the right there, and the bigger one there, up on, well, let me think about that for a second. Yeah, that's that bluff. No, actually, that's not it. That's called Sitz Bluff, I believe. And but there's another bluff. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, there's another bluff that's out of the picture, which would be to the right. Now I'm a little confused here. Maybe that is the bluff. Anyway, here we go. We zoomed into the park. There is the beach there to the left of upper left center, and then a little pond below that, Sterling Pond it's called. And then where I have the pin, it says Fairhaven Beach State Park. That is a bluff, but that's not the bluff that we were looking at. That was a closer one that wasn't out of the picture. That was out of the picture. And up on that bluff is actually where that pin is. There's a campground up there. There's 2 or 3 campgrounds. There's a cabin area, a campground down below. Now you see the pond, and straight down below you see the creek coming into the pond. And just to the left where that creek comes in, that's a campground. That's called a drumlin campground, another little drumlin. And then the bluff to the upper right there where the pin is, that's where there is an electric campground and also a picnic area. But there's some interesting story. Now that whole stream that goes up through there goes through a wetland called Sterling Marsh, and that goes for quite some distance and off the picture. We talked a lot about that in that other show I was talking about last fall. You can find that on my website. So let's zoom in a little more closely on that bluff just to the east of the beach. And right in the center is an open area. And then to the upper right of that, you can see some little white things. That's probably RVs, campers in the campground. But the open area, it's got like playground and maybe ball field. Yeah, it's a ball field and some picnic area and so forth. And in the picnic area, there are some interpretive signs, some exhibits about what went on there back in the 1930s. And let's take a closer look. The Civilian Conservation Corps. What was that? Well, back during the 1930s, from about 1933 to 41 approximately, President Franklin Roosevelt established the Civilian Conservation Corps, sometimes called the Tree Army, Roosevelt's Tree Army, to hire young men, employ young men between the ages of 18 and 25 to go to our various parks and national forests and places like that and do a lot of improvement work. And it taught young men, well, here, let's read it. Let's see. Between 1934 and 1942, Camp SB 36, State Park 36, built many of Fairhaven Beach State Park's recreational facilities. CCCers built 27 of the park's existing rental cabins, improved trails, constructed picnic facilities, shelters, and camping areas, graded and graveled roads and parking lots, improved sewage disposal and water systems, and constructed a large concrete reservoir. So they did a lot of stuff to make the park much more accommodating for our use. The CCC, nicknamed the Tree Army, planted billions of trees throughout the United States between 1933 and 1942. In July 1934, these Fairhaven Beach State Park CCCers were setting trees in a nursery for large plantings throughout the park. Camp SB 36, along with the Boy Scouts, planted many of the trees lining the park entrance road. So let's go out. There's that park entrance road again, where it says the pin down there, it says Fairhaven Beach State Park. Well, that road that goes straight up there, if you can make it out, yeah, that's more zoomed in on it. Straight road goes right up to the park a couple miles. All those trees along there were planted back in the 1930s by the CCC and the Boy Scouts, it said. And here's the entrance. Here's the entrance road itself and the gate there. Let's take a look at this portion of this sign. Enrollees worked extensively with stone, some of which was hauled into the park from local farmers' stone walls. The CCC used stone to line Sterling Pond to prevent soil erosion, to line gutters, and to build the channel that connects Lake Ontario to Sterling Pond. So let's take a look at that. So this is the whole lower right there is the northern edge of Sterling Pond, and the beach is cuts it off, is in the way there. And you look where the exit from Sterling Pond into the lake is lined with stone. Here it is. This was stone that was put in back in the 1930s by the CCC. So yeah, so there's quite a history in a lot of our parks that the CCC did work right around here in Ithaca area, Watkins Glen, Fillmore Glen, many other parks, and a lot of the local parks and so forth. There were CCC camps, and this is a plaque to the CCC camp and commemorating the CCC camp at Fairhaven. And here is a cabin. It's near the park office as you come into the park, and this was the oldest cabin. There's stuff about the CCC, and you can learn on there. And let's see. Yeah, okay. So that, yeah, that was the oldest. Yeah, this is the oldest surviving cabin built by the CCC in the park. So they have that as a little exhibit area. Yeah, that one right there. So after during the war, many of those men went off to many of the men went off to war, and during the war, the park was the area where the CCC camp was, right in the middle of the bluff there, was a prisoner of war camp, and German prisoners of war were housed there during the war. Some of them stayed around after the war, I read, and this was actually from another camp that was over by Sodus Bay, but also at Stony Brook State Park in Steuben County, there was a prisoner of war camp for Italian prisoners of war. Well, that's all we have time for, so I want to thank you for joining me, and as soon as the weather gets good, I invite you to turn off your screens and go outside and go for a walk in the park. Just bundle up, that's all. Go out and enjoy some of these waterfalls and so forth. So with this picture here, we will bring up our final goodbye video credit thing here. Is a